Может быть, даже Путин считает себя иудеем, судя по тому, что ему минору разрешали сжигать. Между прочим, по еврейским законам, не иудей по происхождению не имеет права зажигать минору. Вот вообще не имеет. Вот все что угодно, кипу нацепить и так далее. Но есть фотографии и видео, где Путин зажигает минору в хасидской синагоге.
Может, это особые заслуги.
Ну не должен. Ну вот все, может он принял иудаизм.
Сам праздник. Начало ему положили свечи, зажженные сначала Владимиром Путиным, а затем и главным раввином России Берлом Лазаром. Настроение в зале было под стать случаю.
От злых раввинов, там же раввин Лазар. Я могу его 100 раз любить или не любить. Но президенту нравится посещать его в этой синагоге. Я что могу сделать? Я бы, может, хотел, чтобы он к моим друзьям ходил, но у него есть свой человек, к которому он хочет ходить, демонстрируя, что он спокойно относится к евреям. Позитивно и спокойно.
Это не так, на Бог простит. Я учился в школе советской, не учился.
Я тоже в советской учился.
Понятно.
А я в какой думаете?
Вот если лучше нам храм, вот мы сейчас пришли, помолились, чтобы храм был. Если будет храм, все люди увидят, что есть Господь Бог, не будет ничего плохого. Если все увидят, что есть в этом мире хозяин, а хозяин это Господь Бог, будет счастье и радость всему
Дай
миру.
Бог, чтобы Господь вас услышал.
Аминь. Спасибо вам тоже. Всего хорошего вам. Удачи.
До свидания. Всего хорошего.
Президент Путин, вы родились и вы родились в городе Ленинграде. Я видел дом, в котором вы родились. Я видел еврейскую бабушку. Я видел место, которое иногда за вами ухаживало. Ваша семья выжила эту тяжелую блокаду.
Что на самом деле происходит, когда они одевают кипу? Кипа или ермолка? Я сначала прочитаю, потом поставлю, и все смогут убедиться. Сегодня голову, кипа или ермолка, сегодня голову обычно покрывают небольшой шапочкой, на иврите кипа, из ткани. Ортодоксальные евреи носят кипу всегда. Консерваторы в синагоге или во время еды. Реформисты не считают необходимым для мужчин покрывать голову. До недавнего времени некоторые их синагоги даже запрещали носить кипу. Кипа своего рода символ еврейской религиозности. Так вот, каждый православный, который одевает на себя кипу, он должен понимать, что он тем самым демонстрирует символ. Это все равно, что хабатник, войдя в православный храм, наденет на себя крест. Кипа, еще раз читаю, своего рода символ еврейской религии.
When I think of Netanyahu, actually, I remember the first time they met. It was a Hanukkah event in the synagogue. And as we say, Ashgacha Pratit, we invited President Putin. And a few days later, we heard that Bibi Netanyahu is in town. So we told Bibi, actually, if you come to the synagogue on Hanukkah, I don't know if you do that in Israel every time, but if you'll come on Hanukkah, you might meet somebody interesting. And Bibi and Putin met, Netanyahu and Putin met actually at the synagogue. Later they went into a room and they had a long discussion. It was actually my office for close to 2 hours. And that was the beginning of a relationship that has been going on already for 18 years. So I think that, let me tell you, number one, Putin loves Israel. And I heard this from him before he got to know Netanyahu. He came here, he was invited to Israel when he was deputy mayor of St. Petersburg, at that time Leningrad. He visited the country. He came back home and he told his wife, we are taking a trip to Israel. I want our kids to see how people were able to turn the desert into a land of milk and honey. And he said he took his family and traveled Israel from north to south, from Matula till Beersheba, till Eilat. He really went and saw everything. And he was really impressed for what he saw. And he says, it's something that we can learn from. That's number one. Number two, you have over 1 million Russian-speaking Jews living in Israel. That's a very strong connection with Russia. He feels that this is a strong bridge that can help. Number three, I think Israel has been a good friend to Russia. If you look today, what's going on in the world, sanctions and all of that, Israel has shown that, their friendship is strong, and I think that was an important message. I also think he realizes that mistakes that were made through the Soviet regime, to stand up and help the Arab countries against Israel was a political mistake and doesn't make any sense. So I think adding up all these points, plus I think he likes strong leaders. I think Bibi is one of them, but he has liked Sharon, and he loved Peres. I remember many different events when we were sitting together, and he really, I think he has shown to many countries that if you are friendly with Russia, Russia will be friendly with you. And Israel was able to show that.
I accept what you say, Chief Rabbi, and yet it worries us here in Israel that we also see Putin supporting Assad in Syria and the Iranian regime, and we wonder how things actually work in reality. How can you support both sides of a conflict? And especially the situation in Syria, which is so tragic, and Russia has such a key role in the region. Do you see it as positive or a negative thing that he seems to be playing both sides?
So I'm not so well versed in everything that is going on in Syria. I know a few things that I can mention here. Number one, there's practically a daily briefing coming from Russia to Israel, Israel to Russia, about what's going on in Syria. The defense minister in Russia has been in touch with Israel on many, many different issues. And Putin does believe, and he said this many different times at different events, even in the community, that Syria with Assad right now is better for Israel than Syria without Assad. I'll just give you an example. I don't know how many of you know, one of the oldest Jewish communities is actually in Aleppo and in Damascus. There are buildings there that date back of the times of David HaMelech. There's a synagogue, there was a synagogue where Eliyahu Navi met Elisha. There's a synagogue that Yoav, the minister of defense of King David, built in Aleppo. When the terrorists came in, and they were powerful in Syria, they destroyed all the synagogues. Today, Russia is helping to safeguard these places and help with the Jewish cemetery there. And as Putin says, right now, Syria needs a leader to stop these terrorists. What's going to happen tomorrow once we're going to get rid of the terrorists? Let's sit down and talk. And he thinks that losing Assad and having the country in the hands of terrorists, IGIL and Daesh, is going to be much worse for Israel. Do we agree? Don't we agree? It's a big question. Iran's infiltrating Syria is another big question. I'll tell you, in private meetings, I do discuss this with him. I get answers. I can't say that always the answers are, what we would like to hear, but I do feel that he has Israel interests when he decides how to deal with Syria.
Nikavo in Eviero Nikamu Tolkabo Gua